And that first day is like a bedding in period where everyone will arrive at different times because of the train. So as you get there, you'll get your bed space allocated, and then you'll shave your head. That's you in.
So if I remember correctly, you went down at the start of September.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
does that mean you were winter training?
Yeah.
Because there's a winter and a summer training, isn't there?
Well, it kind of spans the whole thing because every 2 weeks there's an intake. So
right.
You're going to get everyone through the year. Yeah. But mine was kind of both. I did the bulk of it in winter and then a little bit in spring, summertime.
So for me, basic training is the part I know the least about.
Okay.
Because it's behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And my only real source of information was you. And because it's so intense, I think, this is going back now. I think you came back in October for a long weekend.
Would have been something like that, yeah.
And then Christmas was like the first real prolonged period of time.
Yeah, it would have been 2 weeks off. 2 weeks off at Christmas. Yeah, that was week 13. That was. I remember quite vividly because I just failed the test. We'll get into that.
So first few weeks, what are you doing?
Okay, so again, this has changed, but I'll go from my experience. So first 2 weeks, a foundation. So foundation, you go into a massive block of 60 blokes. So it's 30 bed spaces one side, 30 bed spaces the other side. Every bed space has got a locker, and you're just learning how to take care of yourself in that military environment, whilst getting unrealistic timings thrown at you, basically. So what will happen is you get taught how to hang your stuff up correctly, how to iron, how to do washing that they want you to do, how to deservice, reservice your kit. But you'll do all these things in a lecture format, and then they'll test you. And the way they test you generally is fuck your shit up, and then they'll do an inspection. So they'll come around, they'll throw everything out of the locker, they'll flip your bed upside down, and then they'll be like, okay, 2 hours time, you got an inspection, and then you've got to go and do an inspection. So everything has to be pristine. It's never pristine, regardless of how well it's done. Even if you do the locker exactly how they show you, they're still going to throw it out. Certainly in those first couple of weeks, because they just want to show you you're not the boss anymore. All right, you're now with us, and we control things. Okay, so
to summarise, you're getting thrashed.
Yeah, those first 2 weeks are terrible. So you get like 15 minutes for food. You've got you'll finish phys, you'll finish your PT, and they'll be like, 20 minutes. I want you showered, fed, back in here. It's just unworkable. You've got 60 lads running through the same shower block, and it's never going to happen. So they know these timings are unrealistic. Therefore, you get thrashed again. All these kind of things.
Well, from an outsider looking in, it's they're knocking you down to build you back up fresh. Yeah,
that's the whole of the phase one, really, where they're treating you like that. But it gets a little bit better after 2 weeks. So the first 4 weeks, you can't leave voluntarily. So the first 4 weeks, because you get this like knee-jerk reaction from a lot of people where they do 2 days and they're like, this is horrendous, not getting any sleep, I'm working harder than I've ever worked, and then they'll be like, I want to leave. But that same person, if you keep them in until week 4, they might have settled down, they might have got some mates, they might have settled in a little bit, so they might actually end up being a really good Marine. So they want to lose people in that first couple of weeks. So the first 4 is kind of a baptism of fire kind of thing, and then it kind of settles into the normal training routine after that, I guess.
So after that initial few weeks of basically being thrashed and dehumanised, what is the next milestone? Like, what is the thing you're working towards?
Okay, so the first milestone, end of week 2, is a big inspection in the big 60-man block. And should you pass that, which everyone really does, no one really gets held back. They will tell you in training that you're the worst troop they've ever worked with. That's normal. They'll always do that. But yeah, you'll have an inspection, and then from there you'll move into the big boy accommodation, as they call it. So it's 6-man rooms now, so it's a tenth of where you were. So it's a lot more intimate. You get to know the people in your room, in your sections, really well, which is good. And then you'll get assigned a troop corporal. So before that point, the training team has just been introduced to you, but you haven't really had any interaction with them. Your interaction mainly in that first 2 weeks is with your drill instructor, who's your main point of contact in those first 2. Your PTI or your PTI team, and then maybe a sergeant or an officer. And then from there you get given or get allocated a training team, which is normally 3 or 4 corporals, a sergeant, and a boss.
Right. So, how do you go about making friends, basically? Because from what you've said,
Yeah.
it sounds like you barely even have time to breathe.
Yeah.
How much of your time and attention is consciously thinking, I need a tribe?
Yeah.
Or are you literally just trying to survive?
I think for me, it happened almost organically, but I guess in those admin periods, so I mentioned doing inspections and getting things thrown out, and then you're doing inspections again in the next morning maybe. In those little periods in between, you're looking at people to help you out. So someone might be really good at ironing, you might get their help on ironing. You might be really good at bulling boots, you might get your help on that. So that you kind of come together and help each other out, because you have to, because otherwise nothing's getting done. And you realise that really quickly if you're switched on, that you need these people. And that's also what they're trying to show you. You need a team to get through this. You can't get through this by yourself.
Yeah.
And the people who try to get through it by themselves are never going to be successful, because there's just too much to do. And you need help from your section, you need help from your mate next to you. I remember one of my good mates now, who's still one of my good mates, he was in the bed space next to me in training, and our relationship has stayed strong from day one, now till now, which is 6-7 years later. So that relationship where you build in that initial phase can be really strong, and it needs to be, like I say, to get you where you need to be.
Yeah, it's that all hands on deck mentality, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Basically.
And
you're all in it together, aren't you?
And they make it so there's too much for you to do. And so that if you did try and just switch off, AirPods in, and not talk to anyone, you just couldn't do it. There'll be times when they just purposely get all your kit wet or whatever it is, and then you have to dry it in the first phase, or I think just in foundation, might be wrong. You don't have access to washing machines, so you have to hand wash everything. So you've got tons and tons of kit,
Bastards.
which is like piss wrapped and dirty and horrible, which has to be pristine, which you've got to then hand wash, put in a drying room which is purposely too small. It's just, things are just impossible, but for a good reason and on purpose.